Hello, my beautiful friends, and welcome to the Intelligent Change podcast. I'm so excited and grateful to have Regena Thomashauer today here with me. An icon, an inspiration, a goddess.
Don't forget legend. A legend
a
also.
Legend as well. That was one of the titles I was going to give you. An author, one of the most thought-provoking and provocative thinkers and leaders, and a teacher most of all. You have truly changed the lives of probably millions of women out there.
Probably.
And I'm so honored to have you here with me today. Thank you so much for saying yes to
Mimi.
having podcasts with me.
Thank you. I'm so delighted to. Like, who could resist you? So it was just a done deal. You were like, will you come? And I was like, I'd be delighted. So thank you for having me. And my greatest prayer for this podcast is that it impacts every single listener at exactly the place that opening is needed inside of their lives for expansion into the infinite power of erotic aliveness when we plug in. By the way, am I allowed to curse on this? Because I have like a total potty mouth and then I say fuck every 2 seconds. I just really can't stop myself. Maybe I
want you to be 100% authentically
okay, fine.
you.
Thank you. Thank you. And please forgive me, anyone who's listening who does not like an F-bomb. They're going to come at you at the perfect time.
I'd like to tell a little story of how we met, actually.
Okay.
Just a few days ago, we were at a friend's party. Dr. Jack, thank you for hosting that great party. And somebody introduced you, and she's like, she's a legend. And I'm like, she looks familiar, she feels familiar, but I don't know who it is. And then the moment she said, she wrote the book Pussy, I was like, I know who it is, because that book has been on my list for a few months. I've been...
Okay, wait a minute.
Yeah.
It's been on your list,
it was
but you haven't read it.
I haven't, because I'm reading so many other things.
I do the same thing.
I'm reading it now.
5 books at one time, and it's such a joy. And I love reading the hard copies instead of the Audible, although sometimes I'll do an Audible, but...
But I read the reviews of your book.
Yeah.
And I remember when I read it, like, it was incredible. It was so inspiring to see how much people love you and appreciate the work that you do. So I was like, okay, buy it and definitely will read it. And now I've started listening to it recently.
Thank you.
And it's just... It is so profound. I already got my friend to listen to it. And we're like texting each other. She's like, chapter 3, this is my life.
Oh my God, Mimi, thank you.
It's truly clicking on so many levels. And I'm so excited to continue, discovering.
Great. And listen, any questions that you have or anything, just text me and we'll work it out.
Absolutely.
Because
thank you.
It is it's something to digest, right? The title is pussy. It's a provocative word. It's a word that's normally used in an insulting or hurtful way, whether you're talking to a man or a woman. There's really no bigger insult than calling a man a pussy or calling a woman a pussy, like global. And there's something so powerful about the reclamation of that word when we can transform it into power. But at the same time, it's a bumpy ride. If there's been abuse or any kind of violation or, any way in which have felt victimized by our sex and sexuality, that book can plug a woman or a man in. So thanks for going for it.
Wonderful. I have so many questions about pleasure, desire, all these other topics, but I want to go back into your journey because we are all about intelligent change and how a human soul shifts from different perspectives as we go through this life journey. So how did you get to do what you do today? Because I know it's been a conscious decision and a choice for you. So walk me through that journey of your childhood and then obviously growing into a woman and what provoked you to do the work that you do now.
Okay. All right. I'm going to tell my story in the hopes that it unlocks your journey, you who are listening right now. I'm hopeful that there will be some part of my journey that will be of benefit, that will in some way liberate you to stand for yourself in a way you might not have. Because my journey was very completely unique and not typical. I came from a family where there was abuse patterning. So, and I didn't realize it because home is home, no matter what it feels like. You just feel like, okay, everybody has a home like I have.
But it is, sorry to interrupt you, it is typical. Because
it's very typical.
That's what my friend texted me, and she said her sister used to beat her up. And she said, I never it never clicked to me that that was abuse.
Yeah.
I'm like, of course there was abuse.
Yeah.
But now that I'm listening to your book, that's what happened to you. Your brother used to be quite violent with you.
Yeah, and here's the thing. It was so accepted. Let's say that kind of, because we live in a patriarchal world culture, which, by the way, I love men.
Same.
So deeply. So I'm not talking about men. I think men are equally harmed by a patriarchal world culture as women are. But when we live in a world that does not value the feminine,
absolutely,
those kinds of moments of, hurt, abuse, violence, sexual abuse go unrecognized in the wider culture. So, and there are consequences inside the woman. So I didn't realize that I was experiencing that, but I was always kind of a researcher and a very spiritual little person. And so, right around the time I was 5 or 6, I started to notice that I wasn't looking forward to the day, because I always did. I loved life as as we all do when we're little, and so I thought, what's going on? Well, there's something in this world. There's something that's happening that is not supporting a child. And right around that time, the goddess would come and sit on my bed when I was a little girl.
I've read it in the book.
And it could have been like the imagination of a little troubled girl. It could have been the truth, So I would feel this beautiful, radiant presence of this absolutely beautiful. The only word I could think of was goddess, and so I would feel her, and I just feel this like warm feeling inside my body, and like almost like butterscotch was pouring through me. It was so delicious. And then of course I wanted to turn it and see her, and as soon as I did, she would vanish, and it was frustrating. But then I learned something. I just learned to look for her in the periphery, not straight ahead. She's going to be in the periphery. And then I thought, because I was Jewish, I thought, she's probably in churches, because churches are so much more beautiful than synagogues. Like they have stained glass and golden ceilings and things. And I thought, she's probably there. So I had my girlfriends, starting from when I was 8, take me to wherever they worshipped, because I was in search of the goddess. And then I went to different temples and so forth looking for her. But there, as you know, we live in a world where it's, all of the God imagery in Buddhism, Islam,
so true.
Christianity, Judaism, like it is all masculine. Yeah. And so that really troubled me.
Where is the goddess?
Exactly, like where is the goddess? And then I started, as I kind of stopped searching for her somewhere around high school, college, etc. But once I got out of college and I was studying English literature and theater arts, I wanted to be an actor. But I was so stopped, probably because of all the, having never done any therapy or anything when I was a kid or in those years. And I just felt no confidence. I felt depressed. I felt disenfranchised. I felt almost like why was I living? I really was so just cut off from myself and my life force. And so I thought, well, I have to, maybe I'm going to research. I'm going to see, I'm going to research the ancient goddess traditions and ancient goddess cultures and figure out if there was a space and a time, maybe that's the direction. And I'd come across the work of Joseph Campbell.
I love Joseph Campbell.
Oh my God, I do too. Yeah. And the work of Carl Jung. And then that turned me on to Maria Gimbutas and Merlin Stone and all of these researchers. Ryan Eisler, huge impact on me.
Some new names for me to research.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. I have all the books at the back of Pussy.
Amazing.
You can... But these were women and men that connected to the archetypes and connected to the ancient goddesses. And then I started to learn, like, it's only 5,000 years that we've had the more patriarchal religious culture, and to the 20, 30, 40, 50,000 years ago, she was worshipped alongside the masculine. The feminine was revered, and I was like, whoa. And the structure was so different. Like the masculine religious culture is that there's right and wrong.
Very black and white.
Very black and white. Yeah. Nothing like that in goddess traditions.
Thank goodness.
Like goddess traditions, like death was as sacred as birth, celebrated equally. We were not different from the earth. The sacredness of this chair that we are sitting, because we are in it, it is more holy because of our presence. Like the sacredness of a glass of water. You know, it was like worshiping Pachamama, worshiping the sky, the sea. You know, you would not harm the holiness of life. You would celebrate the holiness of life. And that pulled me out of that duality of thinking like I was wrong. And I thought, whoa, if I'm not wrong, that's interesting. How can I? But, you know, of course, you cannot revive a dead religion by yourself when you're a hermit studying all this shit in New York City, being a little, you know, cut off from the wider culture. So, you know, I kept that study alive, and then a new doorway opened for me, which was the doorway of sex and sensuality, which also opened for me because I was trying to really expand my acting career and so I was studying at a school called the Actors Information Project. I auditioned, and they said to me, "You are such a good actress, but you have no sexuality, and you're going to be cast in roles that are like 20 years older than you." And believe me, the only reason I took the class I took, which was given by Moore University, called Basic Sensuality, was because I wanted to be an actor. It was not because I wanted to have sex. Like this little hermit showed up at a workshop about sex and had my world opened by that experience.
I love that story in the book where you describe setting a date for yourself.
Yes.
And I thought to myself, I've never done that. I want to do that too. So you went to like a market and you got yourself a baguette and some cheese and chocolates. Yeah, please share a little bit
think
about
about
that.
it. Think about it. As women, what are we taught? We're taught to take care of our kids, our parents, our husbands, siblings, our jobs, our boss, our girlfriends. We're supposed to caretake for everybody, but nobody teaches us, take time to pleasure yourself. What do you want? What brings you joy? What inspires you?
It's such a new concept. Even for a woman in 2023,
it's so crazy. It's so crazy because our mothers didn't know.
Yeah.
And our mothers didn't know. It was just not something that was part of our culture. So what I did was, because this was the assignment, I got my baguette, I got my cheese, I got my little sparkling water, I got my chocolate, my strawberries, took it all. And this was the crazy thing. This is the power of pleasure. I'm naturally very introverted and shy. But
so hard to believe that.
I know.
Look at you.
I have learned to not, I have both sides.
Because now you unleash the feminine.
Both sides. But so I'm at this market that I've gone every single day for years. No one's ever noticed me. Suddenly, because I'm going to pleasure myself, I show up at the market and I'm looking at the roses, and all the guys in the bodega are like, "Can we help you? What kind of roses would you like? What else are you looking for?" And I'm like, oh shit, this is what is going on.
Because they can sense the energy, right?
They can sense
giving off.
The energy of pleasure, of a woman's attunement to her own pleasure is so powerful. And everyone who's listening, think about this. The women in your world especially, can you see whose lights are on and whose lights are off?
I can, definitely.
Right?
Yeah.
And you don't think about it, but it's directly in relationship to how much pleasure that woman is having. And so I was actually like a little overwhelmed by the amount of attention, but I was also so curious. And then I went back home, I set up my little treats, and I got in the bathtub, and then I had this really life-changing experience, which is that I looked in the mirror, because you're supposed to look in the mirror and look at your body and appreciate your body, which...
How often women just look for something that's wrong with their body.
Exactly. You're like, is it a good hair day? Do I have a pimple? Do I have wrinkles? You know, so I'm looking in the mirror and I'm like, okay, I'm going to look for what's good. And I look in the mirror and I look in my own eyes.
You have such beautiful eyes, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
The sparkle, as I told you last time I saw you. This like twinkle in that.
You have beautiful eyes too.
Thank you.
And I looked and I saw, I was like, oh shit, I see the goddess. I see the goddess in me.
Wow.
That's where she's been hiding for all these thousands of years. She's inside every single woman, and we don't know it. And we're busy running around trying to worship the god or whatever we're doing. But the goddess is here. And so I thought, I have to tell everyone.
Yeah.
I have to figure out how to tell every woman about this. But I knew, I didn't know enough at that time to broadcast my news. So
how do you start?
Right.
Such a big, audacious goal.
Right.
How do you begin? Because obviously now anybody who's watching or listening, you're successful, you have the school that you run with hundreds and hundreds of students, you've impacted the lives of millions of women around the world, but this is you now. How about the actual beginning journey? Because people, especially nowadays, they want everything right this second.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work like that in real life. You have to start somewhere with 3, 4, 5 people and share that message. And then if it resonates, if you're doing it authentically, it will eventually spread. So
you're right. And I'm so glad that you said that, because I love how you have an ear for your listener, because you know that the people that are attracted to your podcast are people with big, valuable dreams that the world requires. And so even if you have an idea that seems outlandish or crazy, do not give it up. It's, the world needs you to stand for your truth. So what I had to do was, because I started to see that there was a connection between pleasure and my own feeling of being sacred or feeling the goddess in my body, I thought, well, shit, I better study more about pleasure. And the school taught, the premise of the school, one of their main features was teaching about sensuality, sexuality, orgasm,
amazing
communications between
nobody
men and women.
ever teaches us any of these things.
I know, and I was so terrified, but I was like, I gotta go there. I gotta go there. I gotta study. And so I ended up, they were also, they generally live communally. Currently it's called Lafayette Morehouse. And it's one of the oldest communes in the United States. I think it's existed since the 1960s.
Is that in New York?
No, it's in California, outside of San Francisco.
Okay.
So I just moved in with them, and I was like, okay, I'm going to move in. I'm going to take all your courses. I'm going to learn how to have this extended massive orgasm that you're teaching, even though I'm like so scared. And so like,
I can imagine.
So
it was so out of your comfort zone.
Completely. I had not had sex for 8 years when I moved into that commune. I just was
8 years.
Dude, I remember I was like a little hermit. I was just like, I can't function in the world. I'm so depressed. And then boom, I'm living in a sex commune, taking courses in orgasm.
What a crazy transformation.
It was a crazy transformation. So and it was the most fun. Oh my God, I had such an incredible time. It's the best education. Everything I am is really due to the education that I received from that place, because it allowed me to connect with my power and my confidence in a way that therapy, whatever transformational classes I had tried did not help me, but it's connecting to my sensual aliveness and learning how to come that really set me free. And so I stayed with them for 5 years. I had an amazing, amazing time. And then I left, and I told the founder, as I was moving out, I was like, I want to teach this, like integrate this material into my own work. And he said, Regena, go for it. It's going to break your heart. go for it. And he was right.
Why break your heart?
Okay.
Because it's difficult?
Because selling pleasure to a culture that's shut down, scared of pleasure, celebrating feminine sex and sexuality to women that are shut down, have been humiliated, have been told not to look in the direction of their sensuality, been taught to cut off from that part of themselves. It was not an easy road, but I'm an unstoppable creature.
It's fascinating. I've read about this recently, that it's funny that on television, let's say, or even social media, violence is not censored, but pleasure is.
Isn't that crazy?
And it just clicked. I thought, oh my God, I never thought about it this way. It's so true.
Yeah.
Computer games or just like news or movies. Yeah, people can shoot each other, but pleasure has to be censored.
Yeah.
What is the matter with that?
Well, think about it. When Pussy, a Reclamation came out, which was like 5 or 6 years ago, I could not put the title of my book on Facebook or in an email, because it would go straight to spam, and Facebook would shut you down. Instagram will shut you down.
You're so courageous to choose that title.
Well,
high five.
Thank you, baby.
Seriously.
It was so scary.
Like, you really had to believe in yourself, your
Dude,
message.
it was so scary.
I can imagine.
Oh my God. I remember the day, because one of my very best friends in the world is a woman named Marie Forleo.
Oh, I know. Well, I don't know her personally, but I know of her.
Okay,
she's awesome. Yeah.
So I go over to her house, and I'm like, Marie, I've got to call this book. I didn't know what I was calling the book, but I was writing the book. Yeah. I was like, I got what I have to call the book, but I can't do it. I just can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it. She's like, no problem. We're going to muscle test it. And then, and muscle testing is like this thing where you kind of put like a yes or no in your hand. And then you kind of like test your muscles, or you can put it in here. And then
so basically your body, the intuition knows, always knows.
Yeah. So she was like, your body will tell us. So she like muscle tests me, and it's the muscle is like, you have to call it pussy. And then I'm like, no. And she like tests another way, and it comes out, I have to call it pussy. And she shakes her head. She's like, yeah, I have to call it pussy. She's like, I'm really sorry. I will never be able to put you on Marie TV because it's called Pussy, but you have to call it Pussy. And then
she did put you.
She did put me on.
I watched that podcast.
She did put me on. My God. Yeah.
So you can see how even in the last few years there has been so much evolution in the space.
Yeah.
And the reason I know that also is because I am reading and listening to all this information on the topic. Yeah. And for me, the journey, just to give you a little bit of a background, a few months ago, I would say I have felt the goddess.
So, tell me everything.
Yeah, like something happened to me where it just it started awake. Well, quite frankly, I was just walking and this guy approached me and like nothing happened. It's just like he obviously didn't know I was married. I have a kid, but it's like he just looked at me like a woman, because obviously I'm a mother now, and I was like, oh wow, like I am I still got it, because I feel like when you're a mother, especially when you have a young child, you're like literally in your zone doing your thing. And then the way he approached me, it just in a very kind and nice way, I could feel that he had a desire for me, and that desire in a way woke up the goddess inside of me. So then I started like looking at myself not like a mother or an entrepreneur, but like this woman that I forgot about this part of myself.
Right.
And then I started reading and listening to all these different books and podcasts and just like exposing myself to this information. That's how your book came, to my awareness. And I just knew that I need to know more. I need to find out how I can embody, like the word goddess keeps like just coming to my mind, and like, you need to embody the goddess. And I'm like, yes, I will do that. I don't know how to do that because I'm by nature quite masculine. Like I used to look at life in more of a black and white way. But I feel now it's definitely nothing is black and white. There's all these grays and all these colors. And it is so much more beautiful when it's not black and white. That there is no structure. And it's most importantly, I love what you say is like, it's all about that creating that pleasure, but a pleasure doesn't have to be sexual. It's just that pleasure of like realizing that you're so beautiful, and there's all these little pleasures you can enjoy, and it's so good for your health. So let's kind of pivot the conversation into that, because for me, I'm still learning about pleasure and desire. And I remember doing this exercise with my mother-in-law years ago, and she's like, we need to write down 30 things we desire. And I was like, 30? I don't even know 5. So I realized that I'm quite numb to my desires. I'm very grateful. I have so many wonderful things in my life. Like, do I have enough? Can I ask more? Like, I just didn't even know where to start. But you say it is so important to understand your desires and that they're connected to the pleasure. And I'm like, I'm still in the process. So please enlighten me and anybody else who's watching and listening who are on this journey of creating more pleasure and connecting to the pleasure in life, because it is vital, literally. And also like understanding how desire works and why it is important in the first place.
Great. So you want to do pleasure first or desire first?
Maybe desire.
Let's do desire first, because you know why? Pleasure is the fuel of desire.
Yes.
So
what starts first? I think the desire starts first.
They're like hand in hand always. But you can, let's say, if you're listening to this podcast, and I'm going to ask you this question, I'm going to say, what do you desire? What do you want? What do you long for? What do you desire? And you cannot think of anything, don't worry. Don't worry, this is not a problem. This is just a good starting space, because nobody ever asks us what we desire. And the desires of women are literally so powerful and so game-changing and so missing from the broader conversations in the world. And think about it. If a woman's desire was integrated and partnered with a masculine desire, do you think there would be like a war in the Ukraine if anybody was paying attention to what the women wanted? You know, do you think we would be as harming the earth?
I don't think any woman would actually start a war.
Yeah, no way.
Right?
No, because we push these babies out. There is no way we would want any other woman's baby to be injured. You know, nor would we want Earth, our mother, to have to eat all the plastic she's having to consume right now. Like, if the feminine was involved, the world would shift in the most incredible ways. So it's very important, especially for women, to attune to their desires. Why? Because our bodies are built for pleasure. Like, we have 8,000 nerve endings dedicated to pleasure. Men don't have that. And that's our clitoris. The clitoris of a woman has 8,000 nerve endings dedicated to pleasure, and the head of a man's cock only has 4,000. So it's
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So we're wired very differently around orgasm, around pleasure. Yeah. It's almost like we were built for pleasure, and if we're not having it, and if we're not including it, then we're not living the design of what it means to be a woman. You know, we're not getting the nutrients we need to be fueled. It's like we're giving ourselves a diet of water and crackers. With no, which would not sustain anybody. Would not. Yeah. And that's why we see in the world so many women are dried out, exhausted, and not, just disconnected from their bodies. So, so pleasure we are built for it, and it's super important to include it, and we exclude it. Like, we're also willing to, if you had to work 10 hours today for intelligent change, because there's a deadline or an emergency, would you do that?
If I had to, yes.
If you had to. Yeah. And then conversely, if someone said, there's this really amazing all-night party, and I know you're working and then you've got your kid, but you have to just jump on a plane to Ibiza tonight and come to this all-night party. Like,
even now I probably would have rejected it, but I'm in a phase now where I'm like, be spontaneous, say yes to everything. But there's still like the initial thing, the initial block is like find an excuse not
Right.
to do it.
Right.
Because you are responsible, because there's so many
Yeah.
things to do.
Yeah.
So it's a battle that many of
We
us
have a
face,
battle.
especially once you become a mother.
And
I think it gets tenfold worse.
It is tenfold worse.
Yeah.
And I think that it's important to look at it as a battle because we will always resist pleasure. We will always resist pleasure. So yesterday, I was teaching a workshop this weekend, and my daughter was my DJ for the workshop. We had such a good time. So we leave, and we're so exhausted because it was like a lot of holding space. So we like, and we're going to Paris today, so she had to pack and get everything organized and so forth. And then, and I was just like lying on the couch, and she was like, we had planned to go to Regent's Park to look at the rose garden.
The rose garden was beautiful.
It's amazing.
Did you go?
Finally. So she's like, do you want to go? And I was like, I can't. And then
because you gave so much.
Yeah. And then I'm like, no, you want to go? And she's like, no, Mom, I can't. And then we were like, we have to. And
because it's pleasure.
Exactly. We got out the door and oh my God, it's like that park is insanely beautiful. And all the different waterways and all the people that were there and these cute little blue boats that people were going. It was so nice. It was so nice. And it made the day like memorable instead of just being a day where we're just dragging our asses around feeling tired. So it was, so that, you know, but you will always resist pleasure. And very often we have to schedule it.
Yeah.
You know,
like we schedule everything else in life, right?
Exactly. And or it's even, it doesn't even have to be doing anything different. Sometimes it's just like instead of taking a 2-minute shower, it's like taking time to put the body lotion on slowly and feel the beauty of your skin, or taking the time to put a little fragrance on because that will make you feel good. You know, it's just like tiny little drops of pleasure throughout the day will shift your perspective. Or self-pleasuring, even for 5 minutes in the morning, like touching your own body, touching your breast, stroking your pussy for a few minutes, shifts your chemistry, turns on all those neurotransmitters, including beta endorphin, prolactin, serotonin, and suddenly, instead of being shut down, you're turned on. And then everything you do that day is different because you've chosen to give yourself pleasure. Now, once you're in a space of pleasure, it's way easier to think about your desires. Way easier. And your desires do not have to be heavy. They could be like tiny, but it's important to think about. It's important to articulate.
Can you give us some examples for people who were so disconnected, like myself, from that part of their life? Maybe because they never ask themselves, what do they actually want? Not society, not their parents, not the husband, not the children, but like, what do I want? What is my desire? Like, how do you even begin?
Okay, I play desire games all the time when I think of it. So I'm walking over here this morning, and well, okay, I wake up this morning, I'm super cranky. I'm super cranky because I'm in the middle of having a fight with my partner, Peter, and he thinks one thing and I think the other thing. And so, you know, when you're having a fight with your partner, just everything in the world is like, awkward. So I'm like, all right, do I just make a coffee in the kitchen, or do I throw on a little dress and go downstairs and go to Granger? And I look in the...
Granger is awesome.
Yeah, and because they have green juice and a great latte. And so I thought, you know what? I'm going to be in a bad mood if I stay here. I'm going down to Granger. So, and then I'm still feeling a little cranky. But I go there and I bring my journal and I sit down and then they bring me a latte. And the barista has made a seahorse. Not a heart.
Yeah.
I mean, we get hearts, and I always appreciate the heart. He's made a fucking seahorse.
Oh, sweet.
So I see that, and it wakes me up to my pleasure. And I turn to him, and I'm like, "You made a fucking seahorse, dude."
So
you know. And so it's just like suddenly it's choosing to attune to a different channel. It's like knowing yourself enough to know, all right, if I do the same thing, I will stay
in the same place.
In the same place. And if I do my best to take a tiny step out of it, I will have the possibility of shifting my energetic. And then it was very productive because I'm writing a new book now.
How exciting.
Yeah, with my partner. And so I ended up journaling and got like a really nice next sort of thing that I want to investigate, so about partnership and so forth. So, but it takes a willingness to go just a tiny step above and beyond to kick off your pleasurable experience. And it's not expensive. I mean, it was like, I think £3 for the coffee. It wasn't really,
That's it.
It wasn't a big deal, and I know £3 can be a big deal for certain people. So I mean, no disrespect.
But it could be going for a walk in the park.
It could be going
free,
for a walk in the
right?
park, which is free.
Or making a coffee and sitting outside and just like
something,
savoring
or
it
in
while
your favorite
the sun
mug
is-
or something.
Yeah.
It's like the choice. So and why that's important, it's because once your pleasure is fueled, then you will be able to step in and live your desires and be a portal for that which you long for, which is so key. And when we are not in our pleasure, it turns our desires off.
That is so true.
And when your desires are turned off, then let's say when you're you might have some insight with your partner that you want to share with him or her and say, if we could include this, I think it could take us higher. You won't say that. And then you'll be mad at them because they didn't read your mind, or your workplace will suffer because you've kept your perspectives to yourself instead of contributing them to the group. So it's very important to give voice to what you long for, because women's desires are never selfish and they always elevate everyone. So
it's so true and so beautiful.
And don't you find, like, because you work with Alex,
we are always together. Yes.
Yeah. And so don't you find that, and no harm intended, Alex, but don't you find that you'll see things just a bit before him?
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah. And that
he is quite intuitive, I have to say. He is very much in his feminine. He's quite unique in that way. But we just see things differently, but it's very complementing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And without your perspective, you would not be as successful or impacting the people in the way you are.
Absolutely. Like the phase that I'm going through now, which I tell Alex, it's like the metamorphosis, because, like I said, I had Alexa, and like 0 to 6, 7, she's not 7 yet, but it's like I was so full on mom and so full on entrepreneur and like wife and, a daughter to my parents and a sister to my sister. And now I feel like it's time for me.
Yeah, it's time for you.
And I'm making all these changes, and Alex is like, I feel like I'm dating a different woman. Like, who is she? And I'm like, that's right, it's the goddess. But it's so nice to discover new parts of yourself.
Yeah,
and it's so beautiful that people like yourself put out the work and help those on a journey to understand that it is okay. What you're going through is normal. In fact, it is great. You're evolving. You're becoming more whole and complete, which isn't that the point of everything?
Yeah, truly.
It's not to be a half, to be a whole.
Yeah, truly.
And I also love that a lot of your work is connected to gratitude.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about that, because obviously what we do, one of our bestsellers is 5-Minute Journal, which is all about reflecting every morning on what you're grateful for, and at the end of the day focusing on what is good in your life, because
it's so important.
Absolutely. Research and science proves now that the more you focus on the good, the more good you feel, so you feel better. Your heart rate stabilizes, you feel calmer, but also you attract more of that in your life. So how did gratitude come into your work? When was the spark for you that you realized it is an important part of everything you do?
Well, I like to look at everything through the lens of pussy. Literally, like what turns a pussy on. And it's very obvious, like what turns a pussy on, well, let's start with what turns a pussy off. She hates being ignored.
Yep.
She hates being criticized. She hates being yelled at. She hates being disapproved of in any way. She hates when somebody puts a timer on her, like saying, "Did you come yet? Did you come yet?" Like
the pressure.
No way. And what does she like? Oh, she loves attention. She loves approval. She loves appreciation. She loves gratitude. Like if she is with a man or woman lover, and that partner says, "Oh my God, you have the most gorgeous pussy. I love your pussy. I just adore your pussy is beautiful. She's magnificent. I am so grateful to be here with you right now." Your pussy turns on.
Oh, yeah.
So I noticed that, and I was like, whatever works for pussy is going to work for a woman, because women don't like to be ignored. We don't like to be yelled at. We don't like to have a timer on us. We don't like to be harmed in any way. So I thought, okay, let's take all of that and see how to structure it outside of the container of sex, sensuality, and sexuality. And so when I teach my students, I wanted to create practices that would start to pipe them into pleasure without having to self-pleasure. Not that you shouldn't self-pleasure every day. You absolutely should self-pleasure every day. But let's say, you're out with a girlfriend, or you're, in some kind of setting with a family. How can you use the tools of the feminine and bring those into your household, instead of, just being limited by the tools of the patriarchal culture. So I noticed that women brag when they celebrate something about themselves. They open up. They become radiant. When they're grateful, or they receive gratitude or give gratitude, they shine. Yeah. When someone inquires about their desires or they celebrate their desires, they are taken higher and expand. So I created little practices, exercises, little pieces of technology that are pussy-centric, but you can use outside the bedroom just to plug into all of those neurotransmitters, prolactin, serotonin, all of that, to turn a woman's body on. And gratitude is one of those things that turns a woman's body on, a man's body also. Amazing. So that's how, and there's something called a holy trinity that I talk about in my book, which is a brag and a gratitude and a desire.
I love that.
And if you do one or two of those every day, it really helps.
And you meant to do it with a friend, or you could just do it
you could do yourself? Yeah, do it with your partner. You can do it by yourself. You could do it in your journal. So give me a brag.
A brag. You see, I'm not used to bragging. Okay, let me see. Love my dress that I have on. I think it looks good. And I'm really grateful. Well, I'm going into gratitude now, but I guess like the shape I'm in now, I feel like I'm starting to feel like myself before I gave birth. Like it only took almost 7 years, but it's almost like I'm Mimi again. Yeah, and it's just been feeling really great. So that is good in my body.
A really, really good brag, Mimi. Really good brag. I want to celebrate the fuck out of you, because choosing to like invest in your body while you're also raising your daughter, and then choosing to even buy something that makes you feel hot. It's so important to fuel the feminine body and soul.
Absolutely, yeah.
So well done.
I feel it. It makes such a difference.
Yeah, it really does. All right, give me a gratitude.
I'm grateful for meeting you, actually, and for you being here, because it all came out so serendipitously. But I know universe has its way of doing things to actually make your message come to even more people and bigger audience. So I know this was meant to be, and I'm so grateful that, I have a new friend.
Thank you. Thank you. Likewise. Me too. Me too. And how about a desire?
A desire. There's definitely a desire in me for more freedom. And I've been denying myself, of course, freedom for the last 7 years, because I'm like, I'm so responsible, mom, work, help others, all my friends. I'm like the therapist, and I'm like, I'm filling my cup. I'm in a receiving mode. So there's a desire for discovery, like listening to my curiosity and having more freedom in my life to fill my cup.
Excellent. All right. And then we always say after somebody expresses a desire, and so shall it be, or something even better and wetter, beyond your wildest dreams. It is done.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much. Would you like to do the same?
Okay, I will.
Let's start with the brag.
All right, I'll start with the brag. All right, I brag that this weekend I taught this seminar, and I brag that I, at the last minute, invited my daughter to come DJ with me. Now, she's 25, and she has, had a very mixed relationship with the School of Womanly Arts because she, was raised with a mother that had a big mission. And so I brag that she and I have come to so much connection, sisterhood, mother-daughterhood around the school that she actually was excited and wanted to participate. And she's a brilliant DJ because she knows so many songs, and she just piped in the right tune at the right time. And we had a hilarious time just connecting over that all weekend long. So I brag that she and I have both arrived at that place, and that I've hung on. Okay, my gratitude. I am really grateful that I got invited to that dinner at Dr. Jack's.
I'm grateful you have been invited too.
He knows the best people. Yeah. It was like, I've never been at a dinner party where everybody was just so easy with each other and open and connected. Like, we really got to know each other well in just a few hours. Right. It was amazing. And I'm really grateful to know somebody like that makes me feel so at home in London. And my desire. My desire is that I find the power and the confidence in this new book I'm writing to really fill out the proposal that I'm working on and working with Peter, which is very new for me, and that this book ends up with exactly the right publisher in the perfect timing, and it reaches just as many, if not more people than Pussy reached.
And so it will.
Thank you.
I love it. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're writing?
Yeah, the book is called Surrender.
Yes, you did tell me. Yeah, I love the title already.
Yeah, thank you. And it's really like my journey of how I learned how to, kind of take my big plates of armor off as a very successful businesswoman and single mom and surrender to love. And it's taken many years, but Peter has really been the catalyst for that, and it would never have happened without him. And so I'm just learning so much in that around communication and intimacy and sensuality with my partner. We've been together, we're going on 7 years together.
Amazing. So happy and excited to listen or read it whenever it's out. Any last words, Regena, to anybody who is listening and still struggling with this whole stigma of pussy or this work that it's not attainable for them for whatever reason?
Okay, yeah, I think that...
Because I'm sure there's a lot of people who are comfortable right now. I used to be just a few months ago.
Yeah, I would say that to trust that if you are listening to this podcast, there is something in this vortex, this portal for you. And that if you wanted to do an experiment today, choose pleasure. Even for just one moment, choose to value yourself, to honor yourself, to celebrate yourself with one choice of pleasure, and see how it impacts your chemistry so that you are becoming a pleasure researcher. You're not taking anything that Mimi and I talked about today at face value. You are being willing to do the experiment with your life, because I promise you, at the end of life, it's not the hours worked that you're going to remember or the ways in which you've suffered that are going to be the most meaningful. It's going to be those little moments of pleasure. And so have one of those today.
Because I'm listening to your book. I love this advice, by the way. Yesterday I was reading another book, and my eyes were closing in the middle of the day, and I'm like, oh, I should take a nap. No, I should do this. And then I'm like, just take a nap, because Regena said small acts of pleasure. So I just closed my eyes and fell asleep probably for 10 minutes. And it was the sweetest, most enjoyable little nap. And I woke up from it and I was like, this is exactly what she meant. Little acts of pleasure. It doesn't have to be sexual, although nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
Even if you are self-pleasuring or any other acts of sexual pleasure and sensuality. But there's so much more to pleasure than that. And I think that's the key element, I think, for anybody else who's listening. I think you start with that, and then it will expand into probably every area of your life.
Amazing.
Thank you, Regena, again for being here. We could probably talk for hours. There will be at some point a part 2 when you're back in London, or maybe we'll go to New York. But just want to say thank you again for all the work that you do, and all the people that you inspire, and all the lives that you're changing for the better.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Literally.